Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar with Annika Digital. It's myself and Stanley this morning, and Ed Truman, who's got a very, very interesting presentation on Google Analytics and Data Studio. You're at the office this morning, Ed, by the looks of it.
Sure am.
Okay, I'll quickly go into the polls, because they will, I'll have to read them out because otherwise they won't appear in the video. So my first question to you all is, are you or your business a regular user of Google Analytics? No, I've no experience with Google Analytics and want to learn more. Yes, I use Google Analytics occasionally or when required. Yes, I use it at least once a month to create our report. Yes, I use analytics most days, but still require some help with more advanced features. Then we've got Ed, could you mute your mic a minute because you're getting an echo off of me? Yes, I use analytics most days, but still require help with some advanced features. And yes, I consider myself as an advanced user of analytics. So about 44% are occasional users, and about 17% have no experience. And then we've got about 25%, the numbers are fluctuating slightly, that they use it most days but still need some help with advanced features. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This one's about Data Studio. I'll just start polling this one. So this is a similar sort of question. Have you experience of using Google Data Studio? No, I've never used it or seen Data Studio in action. No, I've not used it myself, but I'm aware of the product and I've seen reports created in Data Studio. Yes, I received Data Studio reports produced by someone else. Yes, I received Data Studio reports produced by an external freelancer or agency. Yes, I've tried to create my own reports and have a basic understanding. I'm a regular creator of Data Studio reports. I'm a freelancer or agency creating reports for somebody else. I consider myself an expert or advanced user. So there's one expert in the room, so I'm not sure who that is, Ed, but okay, it's a pretty, about 40% have never used it again. 24% have seen reports, and then another 20% have tried. Okay, so I think it's over to you. I'll close my mic. I'll come back in about 5-2, Ed. We've got lots of slides to get through this morning, so we'll have to zoom through some of them in a bit more detail. So over to you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So this is a kind of a bit of a kind of technical presentation, to be honest. Especially if you're a regular, if you kind of maybe use Data Studio in your day job a bit, you've already had a go at putting together a few kind of graphs and charts, you maybe messed around with it. Hopefully this presentation will give you some inspiration for the types of capabilities it has. So I've got quite a few kind of cool examples littered throughout this presentation of some of the kind of cool insight you can gain using Google Analytics data within Google Data Studio. In order to present it in a kind of really kind of cool, exciting visual way. So I've been at Annika for over 7 years now. I've got over 11 years experience in marketing in general. My day job is in Google Analytics, in the kind of tool setup and data visualization. So dashboarding, presenting data, things like that. So that's me in a nutshell. These are just some of the kind of brands we work with. So we work with a whole range of clients, from large enterprise clients down to more kind of smaller independent businesses, lead generation, e-commerce clients. We've got a very kind of broad mix, all with different objectives in different sectors. So my day job's kept quite challenging and diverse with the types of projects I get involved with. So we have a good mix of clients. this is the agenda I'm going to run through. So we've got an introduction where we're going to talk about how to establish KPIs, some of the basic data collection methods you need to know in order to have the data available for you to report on. An understanding of being able to map and measure various funnels. Understanding when users visit your website, the devices they come in on, the content they view, and how that traffic is attributed back, as well as some kind of target setting as well. So quite a lot to cover, quite a lot involved. I'll do my best to talk through the detail. Okay, so Data Studio, for anyone that isn't familiar with it, it's a data visualization tool, free to use by Google. You can access it by just simply your Google login, by just going to doing a Google search for Data Studio. It allows you to pull in data from a whole mix of different sources. All your different social media platforms, your Google Analytics, Search Console, hundreds and hundreds of different data sources it can connect up to, as well as custom databases and things like that. So you can get all of your data in one nice central place, in which you can then create metrics and do graphs and charts and combine and bring the data together in a interactive and shareable way. It's great because you get all your data in one place. It looks really good, so you can kind of brand and visualize it, style it in the way you want to see the data. You can combine the different data sources together in one place as well. And it also has the ability to be able to create new metrics, run calculations, and clean up existing data as well. So you just have a lot more kind of control over how the data looks, and how it is formed. These are just kind of some examples, just to kind of show you. So it really is a bit an open canvas as to what you can create. There's templates you can borrow from the community library, such as these, or you can just get going with a complete blank canvas. So here we've got some examples of YouTube, Facebook. There's a lot of different possibilities. There's a whole community out there that have created different templates that you can get hold of and access and use for yourself and use with your own data. So for people who use Google Analytics and have tried to kind of get insight from it, you'll find that it can be quite restrictive, and you can run into a lot of cul-de-sacs with it quite quickly. So it's quite easy to get frustrated and not be able to get the data out of GA in a way that you perhaps might want to display it. So the standard reports are very kind of fixed and limited. There's preset metrics and dimensions that without using a separate custom report, you just can't change. So you're very kind of locked into the tables and the templates that get used. Also, these tables within GA, they're also quite ugly. So GA doesn't always present the data in the most attractive way. You know, we're talking grey tables and you know, restricted visual formats, graphs and pie charts. The flexibility just isn't there, especially if you want to be able to rename and relabel things. And you certainly can't clean up any retroactive data. So once it's in the account, once it's come into Google Analytics, that data is there. So you're really restricted in what you can do once the data's already been collected. But good thing about Data Studio is that it solves a lot of that problem. So even if you've got bad data kind of coming into the account, or mislabeled data. You can use Data Studio to clean up a lot of that data to allow you to be able to recategorize things, relabel things, filter things out, and basically just kind of clean up the data in a way to kind of suit your own reporting needs. So this in turn leads to easier to read reports, the ability to be able to kind of create new metrics and custom calculations, combine different data sets together. There's just more space generally, so more space for more metrics, more dimensions. You can pack more into a table rather than being restricted to the limited metrics you have in the platform itself within Google Analytics. So Data Studio hooks up to a whole array of different data sources. One of those being Google Analytics, which is what we're going to focus on today. It's probably one of the most kind of commonly kind of connected data sources you'll want to connect up to Data Studio when you get going. You also have the option to be able to add lots of others, such as like Google Ads, Google Sheets, all of the Google products you'll have access to. So if it's Google BigQuery or basically any kind of like Google Cloud platform, if it's Google product, you should be able to connect up to it free of charge within Data Studio. Some of the more advanced ones like Facebook, Twitter connections, things like that, they're actually paid for connections. So you won't actually get those for free by default, but they are available. So before you get started with data visualization, I mean, you've got to really be thinking about the data you need and also where it's stored. And are you tracking what you need? So are you actually tracking it in the first instance? So you have to have the data obviously being collected. You have to have it stored in a place before you can actually use that in your reporting. So having a kind of a base understanding of the different dimensions and the metrics involved is definitely an essential need before you get started, because if you don't know what you're looking at and what the different metrics mean, it's going to make your job very difficult when you get into Data Studio. So I've included 2 links there to where you can get a full list of all the metrics and dimensions related to Google Analytics, both for Universal and for the new Google Analytics 4. So this will basically break out all of the different metrics available for you with the definitions of what they mean. So they're quite kind of handy guides. It's a good place to start to see actually what is available within the platform. So I advise you to take a look at that. The next step is thinking about the goals and the KPIs for your website. So defining the business objectives, deciding what it is you actually need to be measuring. So why, what is the purpose for your website? Why do you have it in the first place? And what you want to do is try and map your objectives to quantifiable like website metrics. So the specific metrics that will provide key performance indicators to how your business is performing or how your different business goals are performing. So here we have a slide on just some of the possible objectives and some example website metrics that you could be using. Let me just I've just covered my screen. Okay, that's better. So these are just some examples of some of the types of website metrics that you could potentially map to different business goals. So it's really about kind of thinking about what these metrics might be. So what your goals are, and then what the specific metrics might be to indicate how you're actually doing with those. And those the different metrics you can come up with can really kind of fall into two categories. So you can think about it as kind of macro goals, so macro performance indicators. These would be like your high level goals centered around like your main business needs. So if you've got an e-commerce website, obviously your website purpose is to make money, to drive transactions and revenue. If it's lead gen, then it might be inquiries and subscriptions and things. But outside of that, you'll also have a whole bunch of other micro goals that are very important because they're smaller goals that help you to achieve and measure progress of the micro goal. So this might be things like signups for webinars, this might be video plays, key page views, social media shares, downloads, and things like that. So all things that provide solid indicators of engagement on the site. So micro goals are very important. You want to have a think about all those individual micro interactions that a user can take on your website, as well as the overall macro top level goals that they can achieve. So there's the tools you're going to need for the job are Google Tag Manager. Primarily, it's really kind of the recommended and best way to set up event tracking, collect and monitor engagement on your site. So if you're having to like deploy any new code, if you want to implement Google Analytics events or any kind of e-commerce tracking, things like that, your life is made a lot easier by using Google Tag Manager. So I'm not going to go into detail what Google Tag Manager is today. We've done separate sessions on that, but this is just to convey that really the kind of magic formula here is a combination of using Google Tag Manager for your to help with the data collection and the setting up of events and tags, combined with then Google Analytics and then Data Studio in order to report it all. So this is a kind of like magic combination. Within Google Analytics, we can set up e-commerce events, we can set up Google Analytics goals, and we can set up just standard events. So these are your main means for tracking user interaction on the site. So there's many things we can be tracking, like in addition to the overall kind of macro goals. So maybe we want to track things like site interaction with site search, interaction with specific buttons such as like add to carts. Maybe we want to extract other information from the page, such as like breadcrumb information, like navigation information, page category information, as well as kind of product information. So information about the product or the service being viewed, specific things like that. So all of this stuff is possible making use of Google Tag Manager. We can capture details about pages, and we can send that information into Google Tag Manager that can then be used in Google Analytics. So we can pass key information about the pages. We do this via the Google Tag Manager data layer code. So we can send in any information we want about the page at time. And this is the stuff that will have to be hard coded and placed on the site by your developer. But this is just to show you some of the potential capabilities of what can be collected. So we can measure products that are being added to carts and interactions with specific elements on the site. Yeah, there's a whole range of enhanced e-commerce data layer events we can use for e-commerce tracking. So once we've got the data tracked and we're actually tracking and monitoring what we actually need to on the site, you're going to want to pull together your KPIs. So once you've got your KPI data available, you're going to want to create a report where we can see the KPI data side by side. And this is really kind of a good starting place to start with it. set yourself up with a standardized table, something that looks a bit like this, what you see on screen. And this will include all your macros and all your kind of key micro conversion goals. And it will display it alongside a different dimension. So you might want to have it broken out by things like traffic source, campaign, device, and location. And you want to see how these different metrics are performing against all the different various dimensions. So this could even be like landing page, for example, or specific like mobile device. So it makes sense to break out your KPIs, get them available in Data Studio, so you've got them accessible and visual at all times. And you can even kind of monitor them and break them out over time. So approaching this, think about breaking out the funnels. So we can measure the marketing funnel. So when we're thinking about these key performance indicators, think about how it relates to the various types of funnel you might have. So whether this be the marketing funnel, as you can see, we've got the marketing funnel here broken out with all of the relevant metrics at each stages as kind of key performance indicators for those various stages. Most websites have a general kind of funnel structure where you click down into more detail. So a typical example being like an e-commerce site where you might have a kind of like a home page followed by a product category, followed by a product detail page, and then through to kind of checkout. So think about the types of journey that users take on your website, and make sure you've got that all mapped out. Okay. Because we want to understand how users are progressing through these different stages, and what proportion of users are actually making it to each stage, and also what percentage of users are actually progressing from each stage. So there's tools already built into Google Analytics to enable you to help you track that. So we have like things like enhanced e-commerce, where you can basically funnel your site with your website out and even do your checkout, such as in this example. If you're not using enhanced e-commerce, then you can fall back to using goal funnels, and these are basically based on URLs. So you can create a goal funnel to see how people will progress across various URLs of your website. So you can enter in a goal completion URL, which is basically like the endpoint. But you can also put in the different steps in the build up to that goal. So you can put a first step in and follow it up with all the other subsequent steps. But this is important because then within Data Studio, we can create new metrics based on things like funnel completion rates from start of funnel to end of funnel. And we can use basic custom calculations for this. So we can do things like create a new custom calculation based on number of goal funnel completions over goal funnel starts. And we can set that as a percentage. And then we can just present that and report on it and track it over time. And we can do this for completions, but we could also do this for abandonments as well. So you can track abandonment over time as well, which is quite a kind of cool thing to do, because this then allows you to work on looking at improving the efficiency of different steps and processes on your website. So this could be like a checkout. This could be progression from one page to another section of the site. It could even be for a form. You could also have funnels for an individual form, from people who start on the first step and people who actually complete the last step. And Google Data Studio makes this really easy to do. So it allows you to be able to create new fields where we can basically combine metrics together and come up with our own custom calculations. And with the combination of these goal funnels, we can start to visualize that in, I guess, kind of much sexier ways within Data Studio. So here's an example of an e-commerce checkout on a website with data showing you the number of sessions that actually access each step. And then at the bottom there, we've actually got a quote funnel completion rate at the very kind of bottom of it. So I'm going to tell you how this was built. So this makes use of enhanced e-commerce. So if you've got e-commerce tracking website on your site already, this is basically a combination of bar charts being used where we've got the different shopping stages already tracked under the dimension of shopping stage. So this is a standard dimension within Google Analytics. So if you set up enhanced e-commerce on your website, which I recommend you do if you've got an e-commerce website, set up enhanced e-commerce. Shopping stage is a default metric in there that you can then use within Data Studio to report on. So we've got a chart filtered on shopping stage, checkout. We've got the different stage numbers on there as well. We've got it in ascending order as well, so from first stage to last stage. And this is just a basic kind of bar chart for now. We've then done a similar thing with abandonment as well. So there's a shopping stage called abandonment as well. So again, this is the same graph, but this time just filtered on shopping stage equals checkout abandonment. So again, this is just making use of the standard metrics that are, the standard dimensions that are already there in Google Analytics. And all we do is flip those bar charts around, basically organize them differently. And then we just add in a couple of extra metrics at the bottom, which is our goal funnel completion rate metric. So the same one I showed you previously back here. So this is goal completion over goal starts. So we just dropped that custom calculation in at the bottom there to give you a quite an attractive, good-looking funnel report for your checkout. So some other cool examples, what you can do. So it's just understanding when users actually visit your website. And these are just some examples of some reports you can build yourself based off the standard data that's available in Google Analytics. Google Analytics doesn't do the best job at providing you with this information within the standard platform itself. So I really like to take this information out of Google Analytics, put it into Data Studio so you can see trends by things like hour a day, day of week, and see how conversion volumes and conversion rates fluctuate across the day. So having an understanding of when the times of day when your traffic is hitting the site and also when they're engaging. It's quite cool to be able to see the device share as well. So you'll see after 9 to 5 periods, working hours, that mobile traffic for majority of sites will actually increase, which makes sense. So that's always quite interesting to see how that mobile traffic fluctuates across the day and across days a week. If you want to see it in a heat map format, we can do that. So Data Studio allows for heat mapping, and all this is just a combination of days of weeks and hours combined together. And we've got the one on the left showing visits and the one on the right showing goal completion. So this just another example, another way for you to be able to visually see in a kind of cool way how when users are actually hitting the site and landing. And again, this steps beyond the standard reports that you can just get out of Google Analytics itself. So this is enhancing what's already this is enhancing the data that's in Google Analytics and bringing it to life in Data Studio, basically. One of the really useful things is being able to use dashboarding to pull out and break out kind of key things like device information. So understanding obviously user experience is a massive thing, and understanding how that experience is across different devices is really, really important. But you won't know that unless you have the data properly broken out and reported on. So this is usually a big area in which clients can make big differences to the website and improve user experience and ultimately conversion on the website, but basically just kind of fixing things that are actually broken and identifying pages that just don't work on certain devices or certain browsers. And this really helps you uncover where the roadblocks are and where the different device flaws are. So Craig Sullivan, he provides this device experience model. So Craig Sullivan is a conversion optimization specialist who I follow. He's a very kind of good guy and known in the industry, very good at what he does in terms of conversion rate optimization. And he's broken out this model, which is his recommended model for what aspects you should analyze when it comes to different device aspects. So we want to be able to break out mobile, the model types. We want to be able to break out the different operating systems across different devices, as well as the different browsers and the browser versions. So what we can do is take this model and we can recreate it in Data Studio. So if we want to understand the amount of, where the majority of our visitors, what devices the majority of our visitors are using, and what browsers they're using most, and what the conversion rates are across these different models and devices, we can break that out into a dedicated Data Studio report. So I've taken this model and I've created a template, which I'll talk you through. So we can see this device information broken out. So we've got operating systems and browsers by different device types. We've got an all devices summary, and the things we're looking at are things like volumes of users and volumes of goal conversions, or whatever your conversion type is. And the key thing here is we're looking at how conversion rates differ across these different devices and browsers, etc. So you'll want to have a kind of like a top level view, device summary, where we can see this information. You'll also want to break it out for then desktop as well, so we can see the desktop split between iOS and Windows. And again, a little bit more broken out by browser also. And again, you can incorporate your KPIs into this, so you can see how your KPIs are doing against these different device aspects. And what this might reveal is potential technical issues with pages on your website. So you might see that a particular device or browser has a unusually a below average conversion rate or higher than average bounce rates. And with that information, you can then it will then allow you to take a kind of deeper dive into actually um, the specific issue that might be. But if you without having that information pointed out to you, you just won't know. So this having a standard like template that you can just draw on, that you can access on a monthly basis to be able to see how these conversion rates vary across these different devices becomes really, really useful to have and to do. And this is really where a lot of businesses will see a lot of gains is by doing this type of like forensic drill down, breakdown, because this is where the opportunities for performance lie. Because if you can just fix, if you can fix something that's broken, then that's obviously going to be good for user experience, and people are actually going to be able to use the site. So you're going to need to have that information available. There is a problem with reporting iPhones within GA. So some people might be familiar with this. If you go into the devices report, you don't get the models broken out. At least you don't get all of the models broken out. So everything just gets bundled under one device category. So you don't get to see the different iPhone models that people are using. But there is a hack for that. And we can do that based on screen resolution. So as long as we know the screen resolutions of the different devices, we can then map that to the models, and we can present that. So what you can do is create, this is an example. If you want to recreate it in your own Data Studio reports, you can do this. So this is an example of an iPhone model lookup. So this is basically saying when the screen resolution is a certain resolution, then map this to a specific phone model. So this really helps because then it allows us to be able to see the individual iPhone models already broken out. So again, this is something that wouldn't be in the GA platform itself. This is kind of like a custom hack that we've done in the absence of not having that data within the platform. So one thing I like in Data Studio is the ability to be able to use the different page reports and come up with our own page reporting insights. So we can incorporate custom metrics about activity that's happening on our pages. So by sending in custom event information, custom metric information, we can track things like read rates of individual pages and have data about the activity that's actually happening on the page, such as like file downloads or form submissions on a page-by-page level. It's really useful to be able to then think about kind of grouping your content together. So rather than working with like hundreds of pages, look to group this page, look to group pages together, aggregate them together for kind of like top level analysis. And this will really help you see where the activity is happening, where users, the sections people are landing in on, and the different types of engagement people are having within those sections. So again, what we can do is making use of the custom dimensions within Data Studio. We can create a calculated field, and this time this is based on specific content grouping rules. So this is something you could replicate for your own Data Studio report, obviously just updating the pages. So basically all we're just doing is setting our own rules for how content should be grouped, to allow us to then be able to kind of group the pages together to be able to report at an aggregated top level. So when we do that, we can then report for different sections of our site. So this is quite cool to see, a kind of like top level glance to see how each section of our website is performing. So this easily allows you to kind of spot any kind of like drop-offs or spikes in activity, on a particular section. So this is like a nice kind of visual to see that information, as well as incorporating the traffic sources that are driving users to those different sections. Also, because what you might find is that different channels will drive different users to different sections. So having an understanding of where those visitors who are viewing pages within that section have come from is really good. So this is another example of being able to show how users are engaging with different sections of the site. We can also use it for user navigation. So with those content groups in place, we can create one for landing page sections. We can also take advantage of the standard metrics available within Google Analytics for second page viewed. So we can do it as second section viewed. We can also incorporate exit pages as well. So within Data Studio, we've been able to combine the 3 different dimensions together of landing, second page viewed, and exit page viewed. And this is a really kind of cool way to be able to see, or give you an idea of how users are entering your site, the pages they go to afterwards, and then the pages they actually leave the site on. So yeah, you can run a report like this. You can see what percentage of visitors land on certain sections and progress to the next sections. So you can see it broken out line by line. So again, we can just modify that the page grouping we had as another custom formula, but this time it's landing page instead of page. We can also do the same thing for the second page. So this will allow you to report on the second page. This second page is viewed in the session, and we can also do it with the dimension of exit page as well. We can break out page depth, time on site, and conversion. So seeing the actual breakout and of how many pages actually get viewed in a session and what percentage of how that is actually distributed across visits, and also get an idea of where, at what point the inquiries come in. So in this example, you can see that the majority, 36% of the inquiries that come in for this website come in after people have viewed 3 pages or more. So this is just working with the data a bit differently to how you would view it and see it in Google Analytics. We can do the same thing for time on site, and in this case, instead of being confined to having to use the duration metrics that Google Analytics sets, we can create our own duration buckets and structure it out in the way that we want to see it for easier analysis. So being able to see how long people spend on site and being able to break that out into easily reportable duration groups becomes really useful also. So Within Google Analytics, all the standard Google Analytics reports use a last non-direct click model by default. And what this means is that the channel that drove the visit that the user actually converted on gets a credit. So when you're looking through your standard GA reports, that is all being attributed on a last click basis, or actually a last non-direct click basis. So what that means is that channels that may have acquired the visitor in the first place, brought them to the site for the first time, in which they didn't convert, will not get the credit based on that model type. So this is really important understanding for people to know when they're looking at these reports. But we do have the multi-channel funnels report within Google Analytics that will give you this attribution. It's the only part of Google Analytics where you can see this attribution. So this is in the multi-channel funnels report. And it will give you revenue or conversions attributed to first touch, conversions or revenue attributed to last touch, however you want to work it. So this information is very much like locked away in this one section, but we can unlock that information and we can bring it into Data Studio, because in Data Studio, we have the lifetime value and cohort information that is being sent for Google Analytics. We have that information that we can use. So these are dimensions and metrics that we can use within Data Studio that have come straight out of Google Analytics that we can take advantage of and use. So in this instance, we want to make use of the acquisition channel, and this is different to the standard default channel that you might see. This is how we this will give you the value the channel source that actually was responsible for acquiring the user in the first ever instance. So we can take a basic table such as a default channel grouping, which is a last touch, and we can do that against our conversion, whatever that might be, in this case, new account sign up. We can then create a separate table, but instead of it being default channel grouping, we want to select acquisition channel. And this really is acquisition channel is your first touch channel. So you can treat default channel as your last touch and acquisition channel as your first touch. So we've got two separate tables side by side. And that's okay, and we can see the differences right away in performance. So we can see the differences in paid search, for example, based on a last touch model and a first touch model. But at the moment, they're just in separate tables. So one of the cool things we can do is actually combine those tables together. And in Data Studio, this is called data blending. So this enables you to take two separate elements, two separate sources of data, even if it's the same source, and join it together. So this is it's called data blending. So this is still just using your standard Google Analytics data, Google Analytics connector. And as you can see, we're just joining the data sources based on the different channel types. So on the left-hand side, we've got the join key of acquisition, and on the right-hand side, we've got the default channel grouping, which we're treating as the last click. And then we're incorporating our conversion metrics. So they're the blue metrics you see here. So what we can do in order just to differentiate them, we can just rename them as first touch and last touch. So we can rename them within Data Studio as we're doing this process. This will then save it and create it as a new source name, which we can then use. And that will result in those two tables being blended together based on channel. So now we're seeing the channel name, and we've got the first touch data, and we've got the last touch conversion data, all together in one single table. So you can see the different data, you can see the different differences there. So think of the first touch is very much user focused, whereas the last touch is more, it's still user focused, but it's more related to sessions. So it's, if you're wondering why the last touch figures are higher, that's because people can carry out more than one conversion at different times. So that just allows you to be able to see the differences between first touch and last touch side by side. So if we wanted to see what the difference is between those, we can jump straight back in, and again we can go to create a new metric. Again, we're just putting in a custom formula. So we're taking our last touch, minusing the first touch, and creating basically just a percentage difference. That's all we're doing. And with that included, that then gives us the percentage difference between the two figures. So those are the steps that we can take in order to extract something a bit different and do something a little bit more advanced with Data Studio to get us some kind of cool insight on that. So I'm just going to show you one more thing before we wrap up. So this is tracking against target. So one thing you can do in Data Studio is track against different target values. So Data Studio allows you to create a reference line set on a constant or calculated target. So in this example, we're just showing revenue over time, and we've got a daily revenue value that we've set in here, and we've just done this within the actual chart settings itself. So we've just set ourselves a target value of 600. It says sessions, it should be revenue, 600 £600 a day. And that will just affix a nice target line over the top of your chart. But we can take it a step further. We can also incorporate a bullet chart as well. And this bullet chart will depict how well we're doing against that target, whether we're over or whether we're under. And again, we can set our own range limits and set a target value. So this is all done within the chart settings. So this just enables us to be able to kind of see quickly whether we're above target or below target for that given period. The next thing we can do is create a table to give us the difference percentage between target and actual values. So you'll want to just drop in a new table onto the page. Again, we can create a new metric, and this time it's just going to be a standard fixed revenue target of, we're going to say our revenue target is £6,000. So all we're doing here is just simply creating a new metric, and the formula is just a fixed value. It's just £6,000. That's all we're doing. I'm calling it target revenue. So that will create as an extra column. Then we can hop out and hop back in and create another metric. And this time we just want to take the revenue figure, and we just want to subtract the target revenue figure from that. And that will give us the difference between target and revenue. And you could do this for anything. You could do it for sessions, you could do it for conversion rates, inquiries, whatever it might be. So yeah, that's just one of the kind of like the cool ways in which you can kind of work with the data within Data Studio to provide you with an overall kind of cool visual look. So hopefully that's given you some inspiration into the types of things you can actually do with Data Studio. I failed to include, we do have a couple of these templates actually that I can actually link to. So what I would say is if anyone wants to get access to any of these templates, then just, I guess, send us an email, Anne. Contact Ed at Annika, details coming up on the slide. And I will send you a link to where you can access some of these templates. So recommendations are to map your website and identify your micro and macro events. Really important to do. You're going to have to do the hard work and the groundwork in actually setting up the basic event tracking in the first place. You need to be collecting the data. So, you know, whether that's done in-house or whether you bring in a specialist to help you do that, it's up to you. Use Google Tag Manager to track and deploy code. It just makes life a lot more easier and it's a lot more flexible in order to get the data into the platforms you want it. Get really familiar with the GA metrics and dimensions. So it really kind of pays to know the different metrics and dimensions you have to work with and play with. So good familiarity with Google Analytics is obviously important if you're then going to be reporting on the data in Data Studio. Get your data into Data Studio, obviously, and don't be afraid just to start with the basics. Start with like the basic tables. Start playing around with the data, getting it on canvas, and yeah, gradually explore. So hopefully that's kind of given some inspiration, a bit of insight into the types of things you can create. So these slides will be available afterwards. They go up on the site anyway. So if you need to be able to kind of track back and see the screenshots of what we just did there, you can grab those. So yeah, if anybody wants access to some of those templates, I'll send you the links. Just email me ed@annika.co.uk, and I'll get those links sent over to you. Won't be right away, but we'll get them sent over to you by next week. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Thanks for listening.
Excellent, thanks, Ed. So there was one question I needed to ask you. Sarah wanted to know what the scripting language was in Data Studio, and I couldn't remember the answer to that. So when you're doing your custom fields, there's a specific scripting language that Data Studio uses, and I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, so it uses, it makes use of regex. It's Google's regex, regular expression language, basically. So
Okay.
when I did the custom content groupings and things like that, when you're working with text fields and things, that's all written in a specific way. There's a whole help center for how to do custom calculations that you can Google, and it's really helpful. There's a lot of good information in there. But the standard like formulas of like combining different metrics together, there's no specific language there. It's just it's just maths. It's just summing and doing what you would do in Excel, really, but just doing it with the metrics.
A couple of other points. Throughout this, I've given quite a lot of links. If you want to scroll through the chat, because the chat won't be in the video before you leave, and grab all the links. There's links to previous webinars that Ed and I have done. Ed's done a basic webinar on analytics. That's the standard universal analytics. He's also done one in January on the new Google Analytics 4. I think that will confuse you at this stage, so I probably don't want to look at that one yet. He's also done one on Google Tag Manager, and he's also done a basic one on actually how to use Google Data Studio. So there's about 3 or 4 different webinars that we've already done. I did an audit of, we had 2 very kind volunteers who let me do an audit of analytics back in January or December. I think it might have been the last one before Christmas, which was a live audit of actually going into the analytics, because quite a few of you said it's quite a difficult jump going from being a basic user to an advanced user. The other thing that we do is we do offer various different templates and consultancy and reports. So if you want a standard template, a standard Data Studio report, where we link it through to your analytics, your Google ads, your Facebook ads, etc., we charge £200 a month for that. And then obviously if you have any changes or anything, we can then update it for you. And that's a pretty standard report, and that's done on a monthly basis. So if anybody's interested in that one, then you need to speak to Ange. She's responsible for business development, and she can handle all of that. And then if you want something that's much more bespoke with these advanced functionalities, then it's more about having a consultancy piece. So that you can actually go and find we need to do a lot more discovery. Just before we go, you'll see that the slides are available up in the handouts. I'm just going to bring up the slides for next Friday. Next Friday is Ilona. She's going to be talking about Instagram. So it's organic Instagram. You will get an email as well. So that's what one. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was the DMI course that's coming up for anybody that wants to do some training. We've got our next DMI course, which starts on the 7th of April. I've realised I've not edited that one. I made a mistake last time. I meant to change it. But that's basically 12 days of sessions. It's a paid course. It's blended learning, so it's in our office on Frog Island in Leicester, but you can also tune in from anywhere in the world. And that starts in a couple of weeks' time. So if anybody's interested in that, if they click through, we'll be able to contact you later. And then finally, I know some of you were very, very kind and gave us a review. But if any of you would like to add a review, I know some of you already have, some of the regulars, then please leave us a review on .io. And I think we're up to 90 reviews now. So it's amazing what a few webinars can do. And that's it for today. It looks like it's going to be a lovely weekend. I hope you've all enjoyed Ed's presentation, and we look forward to seeing you next week with Ilona. I think that's probably it. I don't think there's any more questions. If not, we'll see you next Friday. Thanks so much, Ed.
Okay, thanks. Are we going to leave the chat open, Anne, just
let a few people. I'll just turn off the video recording, but yeah, so people can go and grab some of those links.
Further questions, I'm just going to go through now.
Okay, thank you everybody. Bye.